Welcome to the Power Couples Rock podcast, where our mission is to build a collective community of marriages, where we encourage, inspire, and support one another in order to have masterful marriages. We're Carlos, Catherine, Chris, and Sonia. Please check us out, powercouplesrock.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. We believe that one of the most amazing legacies we can leave in life is a great marriage. So we hope you'll listen, learn, and love the conversation. Let's power up. Hello and welcome to the Power Couples Rock podcast. My name is Chris. Thank you once again for inviting us into your ears today. I am so excited about today. We have some special guests with us, but before I introduce these special guests who are really classing up the joint, might I say, tonight,
Yes.
I'm going to have to introduce my most favorite couple on that side of the room.
And the universe.
In the universe. Carlos and Catherine Green.
What's up, Power Couple?
What's up, Power Couple?
How you guys doing today?
Whoa, you guys have like all kinds of energy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I need
We're
to
in
feed off of
sync.
that tonight.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
right.
I need
That's
to feed
right.
off
We've
of
been
that.
rocking.
Hey, Power Couples rock, don't
Yay.
they? They rock to the left. They rock to the right. They rock. Rock all night. All right, come on.
Whoa. Okay.
Okay.
That's a little premonition of what's to come later, because that was very
Yes.
musical
Yes.
from you, Catherine. And of course, I need to introduce my most beautiful wife, Sonia. Say hello to the people.
Hello, people. Glad you're here.
Yes.
And of course, we have special guests here tonight. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce to the power couples of the world, Rick and Ruby Montgomery. Thank you for coming.
Hi,
Thank you for having us. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. We're honored to be here.
Absolutely. It's our honor. And for those of you who are not aware of Rick and Ruby, we cannot wait to hear their story. We cannot wait to hear what they have in store for us later. But they are just an amazing, talented duo, husband and wife, that can be found aboard Carnival cruise ships.
Wow.
The Pride, the Glory, and the Breeze, among others. They're a super entertaining mainstream duo that travels throughout the seas and spreads their musical glory throughout there. But not only that, they perform in a ton of ministries. We'd love to hear about that as well. Across Atlanta, the U.S. Air Force, Atlanta Braves, various other social change organizations, which I think we're going to get into. I'd love to hear about all of that. So, Rick and Ruby, I can't wait to hear your story. And I don't know if we're just going to go right into it, because I think there's just so much to unravel here and
Yes,
to break apart. But what I would love to know from you guys is, what's your story? Like, how did you guys meet? How did you guys, when was that? Did you guys, and how did you, and I had so many questions, but I think we need to start there. Like, where did it all begin for Rick and Ruby?
Yeah.
Well, shall I?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks guys for having us. We're so
Yes, thank you
super
so much.
excited and just honored to be with you guys. Great friends that we've known and great friends that we've just met. Rick and Ruby, we started out, the funny story, the condensed version of the funny story. I was singing in a choir at Hopewell Baptist Church, having come out of kind of a dark time in life. We all go through transitions, one thing or another.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, one day at a choir rehearsal, there is this person who had not been a part of the choir on a regular basis. Later to be known, I'm sure she'll tell you that she was busy singing in other venues. Came in, and at this rehearsal, now this was a choir, mind you, that I was in that was 100+ voices.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
And I was a tenor, one of the many tenors that were there. And so at this rehearsal, there was this person that led this song. And I was like, And so after that rehearsal, I just thought, well, I just want to go and meet her. And I saw her outside leaning against the car, talking to one of her friends, and walked up and introduced myself. And that was when Rick and Ruby began.
Wow.
Because that was our first meeting. We exchanged some numbers and so forth, and we kind of went from there.
Okay.
So that was
and you said this was Hopewell? Is that
Hopewell Baptist Church over in Norcross.
Oh, in
Pastor
Norcross.
William
Okay.
Shea.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great church.
Awesome.
Is that when Rick and Ruby began your story?
Uh,
Is that Ruby's story too?
It
When
is.
Rick and
That
Ruby
was-
began?
That's a very good point, Carlos. That was probably more my story that night. Because let me just tell you now, on the sly, I wanted to go up and introduce myself to her, but what I was doing on the low, let's say, as is said, I was really trying to look at a particular finger to see is there a ring on that finger? Because if so, it was going to end up. I really enjoyed your song. Thanks for coming. We love having you here. We're gonna pray. Gonna pray for you. But instead, it was like, hi. Well, I loved your song, and it just went from there as I wanted to.
But you didn't pray for her, right? Come on.
I prayed over her. So, but that was kind of the beginning. That set it up where the first move, let's say, was made that night.
Okay.
And when I did not see what would have been an obvious showstopper, meaning something, some bling on the as we're in a ring. We just kind of struck up a friendship. It took a moment for us to get together as she was very busy. And I'll let her tell her own part of that, but I was trying to get her to call me, call me. And so I waited and I waited. It was back during those days where you actually had a house phone.
And you had to wait.
with
Yeah.
a cord on the end of it. Yeah.
You're checking to make sure it works.
Right. Yeah.
Dial
Tick, tick, tick,
tone.
tick, tick.
Yeah. So the very beginnings of our relationship and friendship, which is what it started out as, began at Hopewell Baptist Church, singing in a choir.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love to
Yeah.
hear
I'll-
Ruby's version.
Right. Let me just tell you this. I want to tell you this one thing. That song that she was rehearsing the following Sunday, or the day that she presented it to the congregation, the day she sang that song, my mother, my father, and one of my brothers came to Hopewell that day. They wanted to come to the church that I had been a part of. And my dad, in his infinite comedy, all he could say after it was over was like, and I got to try to do this in dad voice. So bear with me. I was like, I don't know who that woman was, but boy, she can sure sing. And mind you, there was probably about 2,000 people
Yes.
maybe in the sanctuary.
Church, yeah.
And I was captivated from the very first moment. I think I saw one person in the church that entire day, and it was this beautiful young lady, this friend of mine.
Aw.
So
So sweet.
that's all I got. Now, you want to hear her song.
I was gonna say.
Yes.
Because yours sound real good.
Now let's get the truth. Come on, Ruby. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Well, a large part of that is true. We did meet at Hopewell. And the choir director there at the time was from Mississippi. So that's where I'm from. And she'd been asking me to join the choir a long time. And I really wanted to, but I knew that if I got another singing job, that I was going to have to leave. And I just didn't want to be halfway there and halfway out and all of that. And so, and not really be committed to it. So I said, I just don't think it'll be the right thing to do, because there are members there and they're so faithful and you have to be there and do what you need to do. And so I was feeling that way about it. And she says, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you just come and sing this song for the choir, and we'll just see how things go. And so I said, okay. So she gave me the song, and I knew the song before I'd ever met, the choir, come to the choir. That's just kind of the way she did things. And then, so we did meet that night. Now, he did come up and he did say, hello to me. And if you ever need someone to play for you, I play piano, and, I'd love to play for you sometimes, because I don't know if you remember a long time ago, the cassette tapes, the karaoke, the instrumental versions.
yes.
Yeah.
So I had a whole trunk full of those things, because that's all I used when I would go and sing.
Okay.
And I just plug them into the boombox and the microphone and, kind of do my thing that way. So anyway, he says, if you ever need anybody to play for you, this is what I do and I'd love to do that. I was like, okay, that's great. Well, he says, well, here's my number. Call me sometimes. And I was like, I will.
Okay.
I will.
Now, at that
Because he
point in
seemed very,
time, were
very
you
nice.
like, is this man, is there something else here?
Yeah.
Or are you
Well,
was
I
the whole
wasn't sure.
business.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But I really wasn't sure. But what happened was that he would see me at Bible study on Wednesday night. And I'd already told him that I was going to call him. And I was very busy. I just finished singing up at Six Flags. And, I had other stuff going on. And I said, he's going to think I'm such a liar. You know what I mean?
Which is why you need to be in Bible study.
Exactly. So anyway,
kidding.
I know you're fine. And so I said, I said, okay, I just don't want him to think that, because it wasn't that I didn't think he was a great guy. I thought he was. Yeah. But I just had a lot of stuff going on. So I finally called him. And I called him, I don't know, maybe around 7 or 8 o'clock.
It was about 6:20.
Oh, okay.
Listen,
It's 6:20.
Documented.
So I called him, and we were on the phone that night
2:30.
until about 2:30 in the morning, and we've talked every day since then.
Wow.
And then shortly after that, we we were hanging, out, pretty strong. And then it's pretty awesome. And then one thing led to another, and here we are. Just got married.
So how long did you guys date before you got married?
Close to 2 years.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half.
Yeah.
But it was a romance that was kind of budding and building from the beginning. I make no excuses for being kind of a romantic type of guy. My dad was that same way. I just, I love the notion of romance. It's it's good for the heart. And
it's good for me too.
She likes it.
I like that.
Hey,
yeah, and so as we got started, we would date. We would go to Starbucks. We would go to our favorite park, which was kind of our first date. There's a park over in Roswell. I was out with a friend of mine that afternoon, and we were down at an art gallery. He had a friend who owned an art gallery downtown, and so we went. I bought a piece of art, and I was like, "Yeah, but I gotta go." And we were talking to the folks, "Yeah, but I gotta go." And one of the original Temptations was down there that night.
Wow.
And he signed my piece of art. It's a piece of art that reflects Motown and Berry Gordy. And Otis Williams from the Temptations was there, and he autographed it for me. I was like, "But I gotta go." And so, we got together and we went to this park. It's called Azalea Park. It's up in Roswell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we met, and it just kind of began at that point, and we just both kind of knew.
Yeah,
this is where we're supposed to be.
I did. I knew really early that I loved him really early. Once we got together and I started finding out about his interest and things like that. Yeah.
So you sing and you play the piano and sing, Eric.
That is correct.
Right. So then did you all do music together while you were dating, or did that come after you were married?
Well, it kind of started as we were dating, certainly. We went by a different name at that time. It's funny. I found some cards not that long ago we had made up. We said, well, we're going to start doing like weddings. I was doing weddings. I'd done some weddings and other corporate events, and we'll talk maybe later about some other early music history for me as well.
Yeah, love to.
But then we got started, and we called ourselves Angelic Harmonies.
Hey.
And so we would do weddings and just corporate events and just anybody that would hire us, basically. We were not picky. We went wherever we could find a piano and a microphone and get together and sing. And so it kind of started from the beginning. And, as time went on, of course, the dating got more serious. And then, we began to talk about, what's the next phase? Because at that point, neither of us was interested in like a passing fancy.
Yeah, I was too old for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
It's a different place in my life.
Thankful that neither of us was looking for that type of experience.
Yeah.
And then in meeting her, I knew that, this is, as I told my dad, this is very likely the one.
Wow.
And so my dad and my mom both were like, baby, if that makes you happy. I believe that it will. And then the icing on the cake for me happened on a trip while we were still dating.
Okay.
To Mississippi to meet her family. And I got down and I met her 11 siblings and her mom. Her father has passed away, but I met all of them. And when I left there, it was just a fun trip. Barbecue, dominoes, laughter, kids playing. Just your typical out in the country type of experience on a summer day, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I walked away from that and I was like, I really love this woman. And it's not just because of who she is, but it's because of who she is in her community,
Wow.
in her family.
Yeah.
And I thought, not only do I love her family. And I did not know him very well at the time, but I've always trusted my ability to discern these things. I've always trusted God to lead me into a good situation or a good environment. And so that is the story about how I became so smitten.
Yeah.
I love it.
So Ruby,
Great story.
you were a part of a family of 11?
Yes. The youngest are 8 women, 4 men in my
Wow.
family. I only grew up though with half of them, and that's still alive. But like 6 of them, because we're all 2 years apart.
Yeah.
So I was with the last 6, and then everybody else had gone away
Got you.
on their own. Yeah, but it's 12 of us. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So
an
what's-
NBA basketball team.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
So what brought you to Georgia from Mississippi?
I wanted to pursue music and
Okay.
theater.
All right.
And I really should have gotten my degree in it, quite honestly,
Yeah.
but I didn't. And when I got here, that's just what I've always wanted to do, and outside of teaching,
Okay.
and so that's what I've done pretty much. But
So
I knew I wanted to move it for that.
So when you guys got married, how long have you all been married now?
19 years, soon to be 20.
Awesome.
right.
Congrats.
20
That's
years.
Wow.
That is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So what has kept you all's marriage together? Like what values do you all hold? Because I know you talked a lot about community. I know you've talked a lot about you guys were not in a place where you just wanted to kind of hang out and just date.
Right.
But there's something that's really holding you all together. I'd love for you all to talk about that.
Sure. Well, I think it's when you establish what's important to you, and you make sure the other person understands that and respects that, and they do the same. I think that's really huge. I've never been a person who would ever call anyone out of their name or anything like that, but I needed to be sure that that was something that Eric knew that was important to me. So we've never called each other out of each other's names. We've never, cursed at each other and cursed, people curse each other out and do all that stuff. I'm not judging. I'm just saying that's something that we've chosen not to do, because I think that respect just kind of wanes and it begins to dissipate and things, begin to fall to the wayside when there's not a level of respect that is necessary. When we have disagreements, we often just say, well, what does the Bible say about it? And that is where we go. Because even if I want to, or if I'd like to think that I'm right, God is always right. And we know that for sure. So that's the other. But I think it's a matter of integrity within our marriage, if that makes sense. You know how when you go to work, you want to be on time, you want to do things that are important, you want to please your boss, you want to, that's the way it is with us. I want to please him. I want to make him happy. I want to make sure that he knows he's important and do things to help build him up. And he does the same for me.
Wow.
So that's probably the biggest part of it. We know that God is the reason why we're still together.
Wow.
Because every marriage goes through tough times. Every marriage, you're going to have, disagreements, and you're going to want to do something the opposite of what your spouse may want to do. But again, at the end of the day, when you use the gauge, what does the Bible have to say about it? Then that really just kind of makes it a no-brainer. And so that's really pretty much what we've done.
I love the standard.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, it's everything she said. For one thing, I realized early on that there are a lot of similarities in the way we were raised from our parents, and the application of love in the home, even the disciplining of children, in homes from people from a similar era. But we have a lot of things in common. And then going back to when we first met, for me, certainly coming out of a dark time in my life when there were a lot of things going on that just left me heartbroken, left me kind of shell shocked and empty in a lot of ways. And, I had to walk through that wilderness. But the one thing I've always thought and later in life understood how to more accurately articulate based on what I was feeling is that you don't really get to appreciate the light until you've walked through some darkness. And so having gone through and been patient and survived it, not of my own doing, but because of God Almighty, because of God Himself, I realized that, here's an awesome gift that God has laid before me. A lot of this started for me, the short, funny story, it may give you a chuckle. It's very serious and near and dear to me, but I can go back to 1997, and it was the Sunday after Christmas, and I was at Hopewell, and I had gotten there at the invitation of a friend, somebody else, and just to say, okay, I'll go. But I'm there, and this is maybe my second or third trip. And at that time, the invitation was given after the teaching. And I'm like sitting there, I'm in tears. I have so much emotion coming out of me as I released a lot of what the enemy was trying to put on me to have me think of myself, to have me think of others, to have me think about relationships. And I'm thinking the whole time I'm saying, I am not going down there. I am not going down there. But I have to tell you that while I was saying this, I was walking down the aisle. And so, but with that, it turned my life in a whole new direction where it empowered me to be able to recognize more clearly blessings that God was giving to me.
Yes.
And Ruby was kind of after that point. A lot of things happened. I had concerns about where I was going to live, a home. And, I was telling you about living right up the street. That was part of that story. Meeting Ruby was the other part. And God has just been in the visible, tangible blessing business in my life ever since then. And all I can do is give Him praise. But for Ruby and I, in our relationship, we have a lot of similarities in how we value a relationship.
Yeah.
True. It's true. Everybody that's ever been married in the history of marriage can tell you that, I just don't agree with that.
Right.
Or you find yourself on one side or the other. I mean, there's even there's a song that I wrote, kind of a jazzy piece one day, and it was after one of those fabulous, we just don't agree on this. And then a time came where we said, well, we're just going to agree to disagree.
Yes.
And let's move on. And right in the middle of cutting our son's hair, I know I jumped forward a little bit, but right in the middle of cutting his hair, this song came to mind. So I stopped cutting my son's hair with a kind of a stripe here and a stripe there. And I was like, I've just got to go put this song down. And
like Dad.
When musical inspiration hits you, you gotta go.
And the son is like, Dad, you need to finish my haircut.
And so for us to finish that part, it's just a matter of, we know where our foundation is. And if no matter how deep it may seem to get, we always know that foundation is true, that foundation is timeless, and that foundation is permanent. And that foundation is the Word. And if I need to go to Ephesians to remind myself how husbands ought to treat their wives,
come on now,
and love their wives like Christ loved the church. Well, it wasn't just on Fish Fry Friday.
That's right.
Or Fried Chicken Sunday. On the days that we really like.
It wasn't just when things are going great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You love her every minute of every single day, even when you may not feel like it, right?
Absolutely.
Even when you're in the midst of that darkness, right?
So, if we're honest and genuine and transparent with ourselves, any of us, we don't always feel it.
That's right.
But when you can withstand and know that even with that emotion, you still have this thing, this entity, this love that just transcends all of that. So whatever it's going to take, just deal with it so you can get beyond it and continue to grow. And usually what I have found, or what we have found, that on the other side of through, your blessing. As Pastor Shield used to say, your blessing is on the other side of through.
Mhm.
Going through,
Yes.
stepping through, whatever it happens to be. Your
Crawling through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Slithering through.
Yes.
Everything but I'm through.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
I love that.
And so that's kind of where it goes. And so, I mean, I could speak about it forever, and that's just because that's how our hearts have connected.
Yeah.
And that's just what I hold for her. You know, the saying in our vows, and she says this all the time, our vows meant something. And when you say to death do us part,
That's
for
it.
better, for worse, for rich and for poor, in
That's
sickness and
it.
health, you just stay.
Thank you for
just stay.
marriage. Thank
Yeah.
you for representing the marriage covenant so well.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
Right.
you all
Yeah.
for
Thanks.
doing that. That means a tremendous amount. I can remember the first time I met Rick and Ruby at the church that we attend now at Grace, and they were singing. Rick was playing and Ruby was singing, and I was like, the essence, the DNA, you knew
Mhm.
that this was a couple that loved the Lord and loved each other. You knew
Yeah.
without a shadow of a doubt. And the pipes that, not the playing pipes, the singing pipes that Ruby had,
Yes.
right? And then just the masterful keyboard playing
Yeah.
that Rick was doing. It was just this match made in heaven.
Yeah.
And
We
the first time
believe
I
that.
talked to them, I mean, from the first time I met them till now, they've been the same. I mean, you don't get, I mean, you get the true, transparent Rick and Ruby all the time. And so I just appreciate
Thank you.
what you
Thank
all
you.
represent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Thank you
do.
so much.
Well, you guys are talking about being married
Yeah.
and then being in ministry together, and so you're together quite a lot.
Yes.
Talk to me. Talk to our power couples about what it's like being in ministry together. Maybe what are some of the challenges you may have with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and then also what's great about being in ministry together.
Okay. You want to go?
Yeah.
Well, what's great about it, I'll go there first. What's great about it is that you know that you're growing together. And what's great about it is that Eric, I always call him Eric. There's a funny joke about that I have to tell you. His parents, his sisters thought, who is this Eric guy she's talking about? They call him Rick all the time as well. But anyway, what's great about it is that you get to grow together, you get to learn together, but you also get to encourage your spouse to be better in something that they're doing. Okay?
Wow.
Because we have to do that.
Hmm.
He helps me to understand the things that are that I need to do better. And it doesn't matter whether I want to hear it or not. It's really just the truth of the matter. Not many people are going to come up to me to say, "Hey, you know that you didn't do this or you didn't do this." We have to count on each other to do that. Because we've been able to do that, we've really grown together and individually. What's tough about it is the same thing. Okay, because with the craft that you with what you love to do, you just don't want anybody poking in it. Okay,
Yeah.
you know, I've been singing a long time, so you know what I'm saying.
I got this.
You know,
I got you.
I'm all right.
I got this.
I'm all right.
I've been doing
you know,
this.
I've accomplished a few things, you know, in my life.
Rick is like hand in the face.
Okay. He, on the other hand, is just so very skillful, you know, and so that what's great about it is the same thing that's tough about it because you have to have those honest conversations, and that's really tough. Another challenge is not recognizing what each other's lane is, and so let me explain what I mean by that. Rick has a particular way of doing things when it comes to his cables, his mics, everything. It's like when we pack it up, he's going to sell it to somebody. It's
We're
like
very familiar
okay,
with that.
It has to be.
I
It
feel
has
you,
to
Ruby.
be.
Good
You
job,
understand what I'm saying?
I feel
It
you.
has to be rolled a certain way, unplugged a certain way, folded a certain way.
Girl, you better preach.
All of that has to be just so. Okay.
I'm a little red right now. You can't, listeners can't see how red I am because I'm GUILTY as well.
But it's good guilt.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll tell you how I've come to appreciate it. But at some, anyway, that's not me. I just think it just needs to go in the box.
Amen.
You understand?
Amen.
I just, we're not going to lose it.
No.
We're not going to leave anything behind. It's going to be in the box. Mm-hmm. And we just need to know that. Okay. Well, that's not quite his thinking. So what I've learned to do is to just let him do that. But it seemed odd to me to stand around when I'm thinking I could unplug some of this stuff. I could unplug some of this stuff and, we could get this show on the road. We could be headed home a little faster. But no.
I'm so guilty.
This is, rolling it up. Just so. Folding just so. See, I'm thinking I could help with that.
Yes. Yeah.
It's tough to watch. But I have to watch because I understand that's not that's what.
So when you start to help him do that, he's like, no, not that way, baby.
That's exactly
not that way.
Now
baby.
I will tell you what I've graduated to. I've graduated to being able to unplug the things from the back of the keyboard and just lay them there. Don't move them.
How long did it take though?
Oh, just
how many years did it take you?
That's only happened last year or so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's only happened last year. So you may have a minute because it'll be 20 years coming up real soon.
We've been together about that long.
So
married.
You understand? Yeah.
We're quite different in that role.
So I have learned to, but I have to drop them right there. I can't move them or anything. Just right there. Just pull up and drop.
She's got
That's
me.
what I have to do. Now,
I love it.
what I say is great about that is as we've gotten jobs, sometimes we've gotten them at the last minute. We never have to worry about whether there's a cable not there. We never have to worry about whether there's a microphone out or something that's not there. We can just pick up keyboard and we're out.
Yes.
It's the red box.
Oh, the red box.
It's the red box.
It's a red box.
It's in there.
And so that's been what I've come to appreciate.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, he has a what we call a spirit of excellence.
He does.
Right?
He does.
And I'm not saying I'm excellent, but I can identify here with Rick. And when it comes to many things, including what we're doing today
yes.
on a podcast, is making sure we've got all the right equipment and all the right things and everything is in its place. And
yes.
And the reason why is because you want whatever you're doing to be the best. And he has the best intentions
he
for
does.
this, and you're a part of. But when it's happening, it's probably driving you crazy.
A little
right?
bit. A little bit. I've learned to just let things go though. Because I still wanted to unplug things because I still wanted to get the ball on the road. You understand what I'm saying?
Got it.
And then that's very frustrating. So I've learned to just understand that he has a system.
Yep.
It's benefited us many, many times. And I just need to respect that. And I let it go. And I ask, what can I do? Is there anything I can do? And if he says, oh, I'm good, I got it, well, he's good. And he's got it.
And you can just go
and I'm
mix
going
and
to
mingle.
go get a latte or something. I mean, I'm just saying.
I need to learn from you, Ruby, because Chris always needs to have a plan.
Yeah.
He calls it, we need a plan. What's the plan?
I don't like to be blindsided.
And
by anything.
those of us, myself and the kids, I'm a stay-at-home mom and can really just kind of fly by the seat of my pants.
Yes.
And, I think we'll go do this right now in 5 minutes. And he's always been in this position with work that everything has to be scheduled. And so he starts talking about the plan and we all just are like, do you really have to have a plan for everything? Really? And he really does. And I haven't quite gotten to where you are yet, though, with just letting it go.
Yeah.
And I need to learn to just
It's
let
tough.
it go.
It's tough. It's
Because
tough.
it benefits you in the long run.
I was ready to
does
say
benefit me in the long run.
It does.
Yeah.
with certain things because
Yeah.
we don't work together. We are at home together because he's worked out of the house.
Mhm.
So it's almost like we've been in that retirement phase,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
definitely a you just have to learn how to make that work. And
Yeah, you do.
sometimes it's really good, and sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, we're going through a dry retirement run.
Oh,
Yeah, we're kind of learning
we
how
will be
that's working.
experts by the time it officially gets here.
I
But
love
but yeah, it's definitely a learning process, and it's not easy.
It's not.
It is not
It's not.
easy.
It's not.
And in out of fairness to me, a lot of my habits and tendencies were developed in a twofold kind of way. Number one, my dad was incredibly organized, and I was like his twin. I just grew up underneath him. Everything he did, everywhere he went, I wanted to be there. So I kind of learned it. But then the other thing is military.
That's true.
Oh,
You know, I
yeah.
learned my independence and how to be able to
Yes.
move mountains if need be, alone. But
Mhm.
whatever job you do has to be done completely. And it may sometimes not seem really fair that I'm that way, but something that you said, it does benefit everybody.
Absolutely,
And that's my
it does.
only inclination is make this easy so that if I
Mhm.
need to grab the red box and,
It's
and
It's
go,
there. It's ready to go.
Yeah.
I know what's in there. I know where it is and I know what's in there.
What branch of the military were you in, and how long were you there?
I served in the Air Force, and I have a total of active and reserve time of 22 years. So
Wow.
I'm officially retired from it now.
Congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you
And
for
thank
your
you for your
service.
service.
Yeah,
Thank you
Absolutely.
so
Thanks
much.
Thanks for saying that. I would have stayed longer, but I just got a little too seasoned.
I like that. I'm not getting older. I'm just getting
Seasoned.
seasoned.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to use that.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Sonia mentioned it. You guys working together. So this is always something that is in my mind, and I've always worked at a job that was separate from Sonia, and it was either me being away and going to an office and coming home, or traveling and coming home. And for the past number of years, I've been able to work out of the home with her there, but we've never really worked together. And you guys are obviously have been married for a number of years, have known each other even longer, but also work together. So what does that look like in terms of, like, is it just like a switch that you flip and it's like, okay, now we're in the mode where we have to record a song, or we have to sit down and work on our sets, or and Ruby, you talked about it earlier as far as everybody knowing their role and knowing their lanes. Did you have that intentional conversation and sort of almost look at it like a business sort of standpoint and do that, and maybe bump out of the lane and because you love each other, what buttons you can't push, so to speak. What does that look like working together, and then being able to sort of switch that off from a work perspective and be able to be together as husband and wife and turn that work off? How does that look?
Well, this is something that we actually have had to work on
Mm-hmm.
because we are so inclined toward one another that our mutual locking of fingers together would tend to bleed over into other areas of our music and of our work like that. But what we find is because one of the greatest things I love about our unity is our differences. Because we both have very defined ways in which we like to do things. And, if I had someone that was just like me all the time, I don't think I could take it. But because we do things so differently, to your question, is that we are learning that we've got to get our lanes well defined and deal with them, even in particular as it deals with the music. Because I do tend to be, admittedly, somewhat of a perfectionist. Maybe not always in the outcome, but also the process.
Oh, yeah.
And
the plan.
so
You need a
the
plan.
plan.
The
The plan.
process,
And
the
even the
plan,
preparation.
the
Yeah.
system. Yes.
And so in doing that, sometimes if something feels awkward or out of sorts with that, it can throw me off. And maybe I focus on it in ways that I shouldn't. But what we are learning to do is to each honor the other person's specialty. Because as much as I play the piano and I deal with the computers and I work with all of the tools where I capture and record and so forth, and I realize that's a strength of mine and not necessarily hers, she has a multitude of strengths that lends itself to the process of recording and capturing that I'll be very transparent. I've had to learn to be more open to accepting that and giving her, or at least having her feel that she's got free reign to be who she is. You don't have to. I don't need you to be me. I don't want you to be me. Please don't be me.
It's almost like managing a team, right? I mean, you guys are a team. It's like you have a goal and you can't do it alone, right? So what fills in the cracks, right? What gets you to to point B?
Oh, there have been songs that we've written that I knew I started working on as a nice jazz piece. I love jazz, and so I started working on this piece, and I'm starting to track it. Get things tracked, instruments laid down, and so forth. And my dear sweet wife would come down and to the basement where I'm working, and she would hear me playing this song, and she's like, "Oh, I like that." And then she would start to do what she does so very well as a lyricist, just to kind of freestyle and add some words to it.
Yeah.
And I would turn around. Can you not? I'm trying to work right now. I'm trying to work, and she would continue to do this. She'd leave. She'd come back another night. And I was like, this is really a jazz song. It doesn't really have lyrics. But then one day, I stopped and listened to what she was saying. And I was like, oh my God, this is not a jazz piece. And I just told her, run with that. Keep going. And it turned out to be one of my most favorite creations that we've done together.
That's awesome.
Ooh,
And it was like, wow, that I was wrong about that. And so, all of this said, what I've had to do in order to be the lead, to stay in my lane as husband, we're partners in everything that we do, but in order to stay in my lane and stay in my role and appreciate her for doing the same, I've had to learn a lot of things that I wasn't really so good at a long time ago. And that's saying either I was wrong or what do you think? Or let's try it that way.
Wow.
And that has given us the ability to reach some levels of completion or success on some projects that we may have never seen. And it's just about, doing, I would always tell our son, it doesn't make you less of a man to say, my idea is not the best. It doesn't make you less of a man to say, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's right.
It doesn't make you less of a man to say,
Or
I
ask
was
somebody
wrong.
else, what do you think?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because you can learn so much from all kinds of
Yes, you
people,
can.
Exactly.
not just the most important person in your life, right?
And realizing how impactful, speaking of a son or any child, that our actions can have on a child, especially if they see it repetitively and they grow up thinking, well, that's the way I'm supposed to be. It's like, no, that's a very serious thing for me. Far be it from me to be the one to guide this young man I'm charged with being this earthly father of in an awkward or unhealthy way, because
Well, I'm sure your son is watching you all the time anyway. I mean, in the household, they're watching your conversation,
That's
your
true.
language, how you all interact with each other,
Yeah.
all of that. So you are being the model for what a healthy marriage looks like for your son.
Yeah.
So I love
We
that.
pray so. We pray so.
That's how we deal with that. We just learn to lean on one another's strengths
Yeah.
and just go with that. And even when there is a weakness, although it's not always easy to hear, as you mentioned earlier, I kind of want to know. Ruby's statement sometimes, that person just doesn't have any friends. Because a true friend.
Ruby, did you say that about me?
Well, I feel that way sometimes when, and I know this man, I don't mean to sound like I'm judging, but how sometimes, men get their hair cut and it's cut like in a certain way, right? I mean, you can tell when it's been cut. So when I start seeing that it's not, whatever, in my mind, I'm thinking, does this person have any friends? Because I think, because Carlos, Rick.
Because your friend
Rick,
will be like, dude, you need to get it
your
cut.
friend will be like, fix that.
Something is growing down
In your
the back of
back,
your
your
neck.
neck.
Something.
I'm just saying.
You need to get that.
But wouldn't a friend say that?
Yes.
So if you can't say that, then that person's out there on an island by themselves. And it's kind of like, I feel that way. Sometimes I wonder why, like I like lashes. I like lashes, but sometimes I see them and they're like bench lashes, like people can sit on them,
Clicking
like
against the glasses, it's like,
and I go, why
too
is
much.
nobody not saying something
too much.
to that person about their lashes, that are long enough to put in a pew for people to sit on?
we just need to pray. We just need to pray for them.
I just asked that. It's just some stuff that I
It's
ponder.
just something that comes to
It's
your
a
mind. It's like,
and I wonder
things
because
that make you go,
because see, if I had lashes that were like out like this, like that, wouldn't you say to me if we were different? Say, I know you want, more of your
more
lashes.
lashes.
But what you have is a bench on your eyes.
You got some
a
dive
bench.
boards.
And people can sit down on them because
Wow.
that's what I'm saying.
This is my
So-
in-home
Crying.
comedian.
Okay. I'm
is-
crying
You
now.
feel me?
This is
I
my
feel
in-home.
you.
See, with
So,
guys,
but with friends,
with
Thank
guys,
God you don't have lashes.
no,
Rick.
we don't talk about our lashes. We don't talk about our lashes,
No.
the guys. But we're busting each other's chops all the time.
We are.
And Carlos would be like, Chris, you need to get that cut. Yeah, I noticed you got a little.
Yeah.
I know you got a little extra. You need to get that just for men. You got a little too much gray coming out there, dude. You either got to let it go or
I'm
whatever.
we need to work out, Chris. We need to get there.
That's my point.
That's it.
That's my point. So, to what he was saying and what we were sharing earlier, you have to be able to say those things to each other.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to say those things to each other because
Constructively.
Yes.
Yeah.
constructively, because otherwise, I don't think I'm doing him. I would, as his wife, I don't think it would be right for me to see that he's not at his best.
Mm-hmm.
And I just ride right along with him.
Honey, I
Go
just want
right
the
on.
best for you when I'm telling you all these things. That's it. I just want the best
You can't
for
steal
you.
her line. You can't steal her line.
But
you
it's
all,
so true.
It is. But you talked about Ruby being out on the island. So speaking of an island,
Yes.
you all recently made a dramatic change of lifestyle that is
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we did.
so amazing. And I don't want to steal your thunder,
Yeah.
but if you could tell our listeners and our power couples that major change that you actually made.
Okay. I'm going to start it, but I want you to tell the story about how we got there.
Okay.
We made this bold leap out of the classroom and out of corporate America, 19 plus year IT guy, manager, doing all this stuff. We made this bold leap and jumped at an opportunity to work for Carnival Cruise Lines as onboard entertainment. We were hired as what's called a mainstream duo, which just simply means for us that our song list is our responsibility. It is not set by corporate. Even our attire is set by us. So we have the flexibility, the freedom, the autonomy to put together sets of music to entertain the guests that are upon whatever vessel for Carnival Cruise Lines we find ourselves on.
Let's give it
That
up
is
for
so
Rick.
awesome.
And Ruby, my God, Marie.
And, the story, and I'll tell this part, but I want you to tell them how we got there as far
Sure.
as meeting there. But the story goes that earlier this year, back in January, I had retired from the military, of course. That's been a while back, but I also left after almost 20 years of working in a particular leg of the Department of Justice, DOJ, US DOJ, as an IT person. And I just up one day and said, I'm done. I just don't want to do this anymore. And so I went into the school system here in Gwinnett County as a computer guy. And I came home from work one Friday, and Ruby came home from school, and we were both just wiped. We had one of those days in the classroom, and I had one of those days as an IT guy at school. And the phone rang, and it was Carnival responding to an earlier application that we had made back in September, was it?
Something like that. Yeah.
And said, "Oh, we have this great opportunity. We know you guys as a repertoire of music. We think you'd be great for this. Think you'd just knock it out of the water, no pun intended." And we're like, "Oh yeah, great." And this was Friday night. And he says, "Can you be in Baltimore tomorrow?" And-
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
Tomorrow.
And so
Yeah, the next day.
next 8 to 10 seconds was crickets.
Yes. I was going like, nope.
You're like, no.
I was like, no, we can't do that. I was just motioning like,
Had
you
you
want me to
guys?
die.
Was your set list long enough to where you could have that much
Oh, yeah.
content?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you were already doing like weddings and
Yeah.
other gigs to where you could.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not counting even if you just take away from it the inspirational repertoire that we have,
Right.
we probably had about 280,
Yeah, somewhere around there.
270,
Jeez.
280.
But the
Wow.
requirement was 250.
250.
The requirement was
You need at
250
least
when you
250
applied.
songs.
But
You
I
had to
think
have-
the issue is like, you call me tonight and you want me to be in the
yeah,
Baltimore
area.
tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
You know,
yeah.
But the
Okay.
red
And if you-
box was packed.
Yes!
Red box was packed. But see, here's the tricky thing. I had a job I had to get up Saturday morning and say, I won't be back. I had to get up, quit my job.
There
We
was
had
no
to-
2-week notice in,
No.
that instance. It was
No,
like,
no,
I'm
it wasn't.
done.
No, but you can tell them how we got to that point, how it started.
Well, I taught school for 11 years at middle school, and I knew that I wanted to start pursuing acting and singing in theater again. I knew
That's
that.
awesome.
I did not have the faith to quit my job, quite honestly. And God had been speaking to me about it, and I knew it. I didn't even really tell him about it. He was just really speaking to me about it, and I knew that the time had come. And he made it very difficult for me physically to even get to work. I mean, I was having some medical issues, and I was having to stop on the way to work and get out and stretch and all kinds of things. And I just knew he was working with me, but I just did not see how it was going to go from the salary that I had, to nothing, and still pursuing something with no guarantee of anything happening. But I eventually yielded to that. And so I started taking acting classes, and one of the other actors, his father, came to the play that was being held. And Eric and I had been asked to provide the music prior to the show and after the show. And his father heard us sing and said, hey, you guys could be hired by Carnival just like that. And here's the information, and this is what you need to do. And so we followed up that way. And that's kind of what really led to us being able to work for Carnival. But I was hired actually a long time ago by Carnival. And
When we met.
I met Eric in between the time for the callback. And so I was like, Carnival Eric. Carnival Eric. And and so he had shared with me that I just don't know how that's going to work for me, but you're a nice person. No, I'm just kidding. I knew it was difficult. I knew it was difficult. But anyway, but I did choose Eric, and I'm very, very thankful to God that I did. And I believe that he's just so faithful in that he would have it come together for both of us to be there.
That is so awesome.
And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. If
Yeah.
So
that
how
wasn't
many
long.
tours have you guys done now?
We've been on 3 contracts.
Yeah.
3
Three,
contracts,
3 ships, yeah.
3 ships
Yeah.
now.
So
And how long are the ships?
The
How
first-
long are they out sailing?
The
for?
first 2 that we did were what's called a Journeys cruise. And in Carnival speak, that just means it's a super long cruise. It's an extended cruise where it goes just a bunch of places. The first one was 2 weeks. Then we came home for about 3 weeks, left out again for another 2 weeks, came home from that one for about 3 weeks, and then went out for 4 months.
Wow.
And so the typical contract when you've bid on a ship and been awarded or been given that one is 4 months for our position. So since January, we've pretty much been on the Caribbean the entire time.
Wow.
And so forth. And to back up, the father of the person she mentioned, by the way, was a drummer for Carnival. He worked for Carnival.
Yes, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
so
I
he
didn't
had
say
the
that.
inside.
So
Yeah,
when
he did.
he heard it, and he said, they would hire you guys tomorrow. And I was like, who's this guy sitting in the corner? Is he like just kind of music stalking us? But he's like, no, they would hire you tomorrow. And
You
so-
all, I remember one story that you guys told while you were on the Carnival cruise that I thought was so amazing. You had talked about, well, it's more than one story, but people would come up to you all and see your light.
Yes.
See your
Yes.
light. Just give us just one quick one where they would see your light as you guys were singing and.
Yeah. Well, I remember this particular guest name. Her name was Kendra. And she was just a lot of fun. and was there to have a great time. And she came up to me, or sauntered up to me while I was singing
In the middle of a
in the
song.
middle of a song. She says, I just won't tell you. Where's she from?
Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Right when you're singing a song.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of it.
Wow.
I just won't tell you. Your Christianity's showing.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I think it had to do. I don't remember the exact song, but I know it was a ballad, and I know that at that point Ruby had the mic in her hand. If I couldn't see her eyes, I'm sure they were closed, and her hand was up. And I just happened to look around, and this lady walked up, and like,
I just want to tell you.
There was one other one that you had talked about the young man.
Yes, we met this most delightful young guy. His name was John. Okay, he's about 23.
Probably somewhere in there. Yeah.
And he was high performing Down syndrome.
Mhm.
Okay, I always want to say autism, but it was Down syndrome. High performing.
functioning.
High
Mhm.
functioning, pardon me.
Mhm.
Well, we were on this last ship. We were on the Carnival Breeze, and we were in the atrium, which is the big area where all the elevators are going up and down, and there's a stage up over the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were singing there, and we had just finished a particular song, and I was fiddling around with that laptop trying to get my next song queued up, my backing track, and I heard this very soft voice said, I love that song you sung. And I heard Ruby, as I'm still fiddling with the computer, turn around and say, well, thank you very much. She's so polite, and I love that about her. She's so kind and gracious and polite to just total stranger. It doesn't matter their degree of health, where they're from, doesn't matter. It's just her, and I love that about her.
Thank you.
And he said, do you know the song I can only imagine? And and Ruby said, well, yeah, we know that. And at that point I was like, wait, what's going on back here? And I turned around to look, and I just thought, I just want to see this person. And Ruby said, yes, we know that. And he said, well, I love that song. That was my grandfather's favorite song, and my grandfather's in heaven now, but that was his favorite song. And so we are in this atrium, and there was deck 3, deck 4, deck 5, deck 6, all the way up to deck 10 that could hear our music and can look down and see us. And often it's just people standing there, passing by. They'll stop and look, and Ruby and I looked at each other, and I just said, we have to sing that song. And so I got my phone and connected to the internet. I didn't have that on my iPad lyrically.
Well, yeah, being a mainstream duo,
mainstream
the
duo.
Mercy Me song is not necessarily mainstream.
Oh, but Chris, you would be surprised what we did on that ship. But
So that was not part of the plan.
No,
but
it was not.
Okay.
But you were
So-
prepared.
Yeah.
right. So I got my phone, and I quickly got the lyrics. And I just I told the crowd we were between songs, and folks we're so blessed that people have really migrated toward the music that we share, the love that's in it. People tell us all the time, "Oh, I could just tell y'all are married. Just such a great relationship. I just see it all over y'all." And but so I just told the crowd, I says, "Well, we're going to do a special song right now for a very special friend, and the song is titled I Can Only Imagine."
Oh.
And so Ruby held my phone because I could barely see it at that point, and she's holding it right in front of me. And so, Carlos, I did this song, and I have to tell you guys, when it was over, the applause erupted in thunderous fashion. Folks were so moved by that. There were people crying. I was nearly crying. And John was just behind us with his most beautiful smile on his face. And he just said, thank you. And I want you to know the rest of that week, every time we hit the stage, John was in the front row.
Wow.
And I think we did it another time, didn't we? In the Alchemy Bar. And yeah. So mind you, now this is a cruise ship. People are there. They've got the drink package. They've got T-shirts that tell you, "Hey, don't mind me. I bought the drink package." But it was just one of those things. And Ruby said something that just landed on everybody, myself included. I think kind of like a truckload of bricks when I was stumbling over the words to say. I didn't know what to say. I was full at that moment, and I just said, sometimes you just got to stop and what did you say? You said,
Just be kind.
You just got to be kind. I think you said you just got to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Be kind.
And I want you to know, folks, on every level, just the applause was thunderous.
Yeah.
So much so that there was a guy several decks up. I didn't get to see his face, but all I heard was somebody yelling from up above us, Sing "Old Rugged Cross."
You guys are like, we do need to keep our job.
But isn't that beautiful? I think
It
God has
is.
appointed you guys to be
Yes,
exactly
yes.
where you are for that
Yeah.
very exact reason.
Mm.
It's to be able to interject that
That's right.
part of what you do for people that may or may not have ever had it or seen it
Yeah,
or heard it.
sure,
and
sure.
and you are kind of that blessing that he's using on each one of these ships.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty amazing.
It's to your earlier
Yeah.
point, it's seeing their
amazing.
light.
It's seeing
Yeah.
their light,
Seeing
and it's
their
amazing
light.
that there's people there that didn't even know they needed that.
Oh yeah.
That's
Didn't know
true.
they needed that song, or just to encourage them, inspire them, and to confirm where they are in their faith. And for you all to be in that particular place at that particular time, and for John
Yes.
to even make the request.
Yes, that's true.
Nothing is ever done by accident.
No. That's
Nothing
right.
whatsoever.
That's
It was a
Maybe
godly,
we could get to hear some special for our power couples for our audience.
Yeah,
at some point.
we would be remiss if we didn't talk at least a little bit about your music. And you guys just put out a new song, right?
Mhm.
Is it "Man After God's Own Heart"?
Mhm.
Right?
That's it.
Available streaming services.
Streaming services, iTunes, CD Baby, anywhere you can stream, certainly. And it's available.
Okay.
If you do not stream out there, you can do the download from digital download.
Right.
We went digital distribution so far,
Yeah.
and you can get that from CD Baby or iTunes or in places like
Mhm.
it's all over. It's on YouTube. There's a music video shot for it that you
Nice.
can find, and so it's out
Nice.
there.
We'll definitely put the links for everyone that's listening in the show notes. And also rickandruby.com,
Absolutely.
right? And you guys have a Facebook page as well as Twitter. But would you guys do us a favor and the honor of performing
Please.
a song
Please.
for us
We'd
tonight
be honored.
and
We'd
our
love to.
listeners?
Yes.
We would
Will you
love
guys
to.
perform your new song?
Absolutely. We would love to.
Amazing, amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Rick and Ruby. Go to rickandruby.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Their new song, which is "A Man After God's Own Heart." And without further ado, here is Rick and Ruby.
She wakes in the morning with a smile on her face. She's thankful to God for one more day. She sends him off to school with prayer and with love. She looks to her God for guidance from above. She knows that she's got a job on her hands, teaching her to be a lady and her son to be a man. She's wise enough to know only God can help her through. She's down on her knees and I can hear her pray to you. She prays, Lord, send me a man after God's own heart. I can hear her pray, send me a man after God's. She's given all she's had so many times. What she thought was love was only a lie, a heart full of pain, trust broken too. No way will she choose another without you. She's satisfied to be without anyone else. If that is your will, Lord, that's what she'll accept. She's wise enough to know only you can help her through. Before she falls asleep, I can hear her pray to you. She prays, Lord, send me a man after God's own heart. I can hear her pray, send me a man ready to receive a blessing. Yes, she does. A man after God's own heart.
That was amazing.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Oh my
Thank
God.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick and Ruby Montgomery, not only for singing, but also sharing your story.
Yes.
You all are the true essence of a power couple, and just your marriage is based on the Word of God. The DNA that you guys actually carry is just so evident in your walk, in your talk, and in your singing. So we just really appreciate it, and we're so honored that you all are here with us on our podcast tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for having us.
Thank
It's
you
been
guys.
a
We're glad
pleasure.
to be here with you tonight.
So is everybody ready to get
Powered up.
Thanks for listening to the Power Couples Rock podcast. We hope that you've been encouraged, inspired, and supported. Please listen and subscribe to our other PowerPods, as we are confident that they will strengthen your marriage. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. It's there where we can extend these discussions together, take these conversations and your marriage to the next level. Enjoy your day and power up.